What's up Nakama, welcome to the part 3, of What If Luffy Had Koby Join His Crew. Chapter 5. Destiny. Fate. Dreams. These unstoppable ideals are held deep in the heart of men. As long as there are people who seek freedom in this life, these things shall not vanish from the earth. It has been 3 days since the Going Merry left Kokoyashi village and life aboard the ship was as lively as ever. Nami rested under an umbrella, a fresh, and to her, overpriced, newspaper in her hands. She'd given it a cursory glance as she had with the last few days' papers, but there was no mention of their crew or her home village. The only thing related to their latest exploit was a briefing on the capture of Arlong and the Arlong pirates by Marine Branch 517, who had picked up the arrests to relieve the battered Branch 16 after their hard-fought battle. In her peripherals were Zoro, Jin, and Koby nearer the figurehead. Zoro had recently taught Koby how to maintain and clean a real sword and was now relaxing as he watched his student care for the swords that they had stolen from the fishmen. Jin was opposite them, having borrowed a pair of handbells and was now trying to imitate a workout he had seen Zoro do that morning. The buckets of sweat rolling down his face had forced Usopp to relocate his chemistry set twice. This moment of calm cracked as Luffy landed on the deck with a whump, having been kicked there by Sanji on the second level. "You're so mean, Sanji," the captain complained. "I just want one." "It doesn't matter what you want," the chef replied. "These are Nami Swan's tangerines." "Oh, Nami Swan. Are you seeing how well I am defending your orchard?" "Yes, Sanji," Nami answered almost automatically, not even moving her eyes from the paper. "Say, Captain?" Koby asked, redirecting Luffy's attention before he could throw a punch at the distracted chef. "Can I talk to you for a second?" "Sure thing, Koby." Luffy wasted no time in bouncing to the Rosette's side. "What's up? Have you ever thought about just asking Nami if you can have a tangerine, instead of stealing it?" Luffy blinked twice before his eyes grew almost comically, the teen dropping a fist into an open palm. "I've never thought of that," he said. Koby seemed taken aback, his own manners confounded. "Were you never taught that you could just ask for what you need?" "Nah, didn't have many rules. We just had to stay out of her way and catch our own food out in the forest." "You grew up in a forest?" Koby gawked, Usopp mirroring him. Actually, that explains a lot. Yeah. Makino taught me to say thank you, but you don't have to do that if you just take it. Anyway, thanks for the advice, Koby. That's why you and Nami are the smart ones." "Excuse me?" Usopp demanded. "Was I just insulted?" Jin panted. "Hey, Nami," Luffy called, ignoring his other crewmates. Nami's gaze shifted from the paper as her boyfriend approached. "Can I have a tangerine?" Sanji scoffed. "As if Nami Swan would. What's the magic word?" the navigator asked, cutting off the chef. Sanji froze, shocked. "Hold on," Luffy muttered. "I know this one." Open sesame?" "No, that's not it." "Alakazam?" "No, not that one either." Nami smiled, a little giggle sneaking past her lips. While Luffy was charming and very loyal to his friends, he certainly wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Taking pity on his clueless captain, Jin strode over and whispered in his ear. "Oh. That makes sense. Nami, can I please have a tangerine from your orchard?" "Yes you can," she laughed. "Let me get it for you." She stood, jostling the newspaper as she did so. Out of it fell 3 tan sheets of paper with familiar faces on them. Wanted, dead or alive Straw Hat Luffy 30 million pirate hunters Oro 20 million man demon Jin, new allegiance, 12 million. Thought the crew could not tell when Luffy or Zoro's pictures had been taken. It appeared that Jin's was from the celebration party at Kokoyashi. He was laughing alongside Genzo, what had been a tower of chairs and tables, fallen over beside them. "What?" Sanji yelled from the second level. "This is not good." Nami screamed. "This is great." Luffy laughed. "Oh," Jin commented. "New picture. ZZZZZZZ. Zoro snored. Even Zoro-sensei got one. Koby shouted. That's me. Usopp cheered, turning attention to him. Luffy quirked an eyebrow. What? Look in the corner, there. He pointed at Luffy's poster. That's the back of my head. And that's my nose on Zoro's. And that is me and Jin's after my sage fell over. Luffy, you're a wanted criminal. Nami continued, completely ignoring the sniper. I know. And my bounty's 30 million. Isn't that great? And Zoro's worth 20 million. Hey, Sanji. How about a celebratory meal? He paused. Please? Well, since you said please. Sanji headed to the kitchen with a shake of his head. Luffy scooped up the posters, holding them up to the light as if looking for the best angle. Captain, this is very dangerous, Koby warned. The rumors say there is a marine captain with a perfect record, a man of such power that all pirates who arrive on his island only leave in the brigs of marine ships. No one seems to know his name, though. He hates being in the spotlight, a true man of justice. If we run into him, it could be the end of our journey, so we have to be careful. A powerful marine. Usopp stuttered, beakers and test tubes rattling from his fearful shaking. I'll see if I can learn anything from the paper, Nami offered, settling back into her reading in the hopes of gleaning some new information they may need. We'll be fine, Luffy waved off, we're strong. If that captain comes for us, we'll just kick his ass. Actually, Jin put in, I don't think this is something to take lightly. I can't remember where that marine is, but even Krieg was scared of him, so we passed by that island completely to avoid him. I think you could win, but I don't want to take that chance. That we'll be really sneaky, Luffy shrugged. I'm good at being quiet and sneaking up on things. I did it all the time back in the forest. I doubt that, Zoro muttered against the railing, his back to the ocean where a dilapidated ship with marine colors sailed past in the opposite direction. The whole ship seemed to freeze before it turned around and sailed toward them far faster than any ship that broke in had any right to move, creaking and groaning all the way. Pirates! A familiar voice yelled from the deck of the ship, the pirate's eyes landing on a man Koby and Jin recognized as Lieutenant Fullbody. He was not focusing on the members of the crew, but rather on their Jolly Roger. You are hereby under arrest for crimes against the world government. Surrender peacefully. This guy can't be serious, Usopp blinked, studying the ship that had pulled up alongside the Going Merry. As he watched, a piece of the marine ship's railing crumbled, falling into the water below. His voice attracted Fullbody's attention to the crew, the man paling as he recognized them. Food's ready, Sanji announced, stepping out of the kitchen. Fullbody, impossibly, paled further. Men. The lieutenant called, a squeak in his voice. Attack. A group of 6 Marines jumped onto the Mary's deck, the crew of pirates, sans Nami, drawing their weapons. Usopp was the fastest on the draw, his newest projectile in his slingshot, and fired before the Marines had settled. Tabasco Star. The sniper yelled. A younger man's eyes widened as he breathed fire with a scream, the propulsion pushing him over the railing. Jin was the second one to act. His methods much more final. He drew his flintlock and fired, the bullet slamming into the chest of the oldest Marine. The man gasped, his hands dropping his sword to clutch at the red stain spreading out from the center of his ribs. The other Marines stared in shock as he started to fall forward, only for Jin to appear in their midst, his tonfa punting the shot man into the ocean. Because of that gruesome scene, 3 of the 4 remaining Marines were unable to put up any fight against Luffy's gum-gum pistol, Zoro's swords, or Sanji's kicks. The last Marine, a large man who clearly did not exercise enough, managed to get some semblance of his wits about him, trying to bring an overhead slash down on Koby as he approached. The Rosette responded as Zoro had taught him to, deflecting the swing, and jumping to kick the man in the face. He stumbled backwards over the railing, joining his crewmates in the water. Fullbody shook, though the crew could not tell if it was from anger, fear, or some combination thereof. Would you idiots keep it down? Nami demanded. I'm trying to read. Sorry, Nami. Koby offered. The lieutenant swallowed, raising his fists and jumping to the marry. Jin didn't give him a chance to even land, spinning into a full-force slam that had weighted down from meeting his ribs with a crack. Full but he coughed blood as he was rocketed back to and into the hull of his ship. With a groan, the ship gave up whatever strength had kept it above water and began to sink. The wind picked up, a gust pushing the going Mary along her path, away from the sinking marine ship. The fighter stood by the railing as the ship started to disappear, both into the distance and under the waves, the surviving Marines trying to pull their commander from the wreckage of their ship. Jin, Luffy began, stopping the man in his tracks. We need to talk about what just happened. What do you mean, Don? Jin asked, visibly confused. We defended the ship from an attack of Marines. They were clearly weaker than us and hadn't done anything against us, but you killed one of them. And? Luffy blinked, surprised by the blasé tone his crewmate had in regards to having just killed what was, for all accounts, an innocent man, even if it had been an attacking Marine. He paused as Usopp's shaking became audible, trying to figure out how to get his thoughts across. Listen, Jin. I don't want you to kill anyone else if you can help it. We were clearly stronger than they were and they didn't threaten our nakama. Some fights aren't worth fighting and some people aren't worth killing. From now on, unless your life is on the line or I tell you you can, I don't want you killing anyone else. But, Don, Jin protested. What if they come back stronger than before? Then we'll deal with them then, Luffy answered, his gaze moving over the rest of his crewmates. Sometimes, leaving your enemy alive is worse than death for them, and maybe we'll meet a few people who deserve that. Am I clear? Yes, Captain. Koby yelled. Yes, Don, Jin nodded, falling to one knee. Sure, Sanji shrugged, Zoro grunting and Usopp shaking. Good, then we're done here, Luffy nodded, Sanji making his way back into the kitchen. Luffy turned his attention to Nami, who was setting aside the newspaper. She was looking a little pale. Are you okay, Nami? I'm fine, she waved off, refusing to look at the splashes on blood on the deck from the fighting. Luffy seemed to pick up on her unease, shifting the topic. Hey, Nami. Where are we heading now? It's a place known as Logtown, the woman answered. Koby and Jin both perked up, recognizing it. It's known as the Town of Beginnings and Endings because that's where Gold Roger was both born and executed. That's the place. Jin interjected. That's the place with the strong captain. Krieg skipped it before we entered the Grand Line because he didn't want to take the risk. It's the perfect location, too, Koby mused. So many pirates would come to see the place where the Great Pirate Era began and fall into the Marines' trap there. We aren't gonna fall into any traps, Luffy smiled. Onwards. To the place where Gold Roger died. His stomach grumbled, leading the young captain to turn toward the navigator. So, can I have that tangerine now? So this is Logtown, Luffy muttered, looking up at the sign that proclaimed the town's name. I wanna see the execution platform where Gold Roger died. We can meet back here later. Luffy. Nami yelled after him as he vanished into the crowd. He didn't even give us a real time and I bet he'll get lost. I'll go find him, Jin offered. I was here with my father once before, so I remember my way to the plaza. He received a nod from the woman, prompting him to run after Luffy before the teen's straw hat completely vanished. I need some new swords, Zoro announced. I don't think these stolen ones will hold up to my strength and their quality isn't very good. Well, I can lend you some money, Nami smiled, for some interest, of course. 300% sounds about right. That's way too much. Zoro protested. Take it or leave it, the navigator responded, rubbing her thumb and pointer finger together in the universal sign for money. You don't have any other options. Fine. The swordsman grunted unhappily. If I'm borrowing money, I might as well try to find Koby a better pair, 2, so we'll split the cost. If that's the case, then I suppose I can lend you 2 twice as much at only 250% interest. Damn, see which, Zoro cursed under his breath. Come on, shrimp. The duo took their exit, leaving the others to their own devices. Listen up, shrimp, Zoro said as he and Koby turned a corner, putting the going merry out of sight. I've got a bounty on me now, and while I don't really care about that, we don't need people challenging me in the street because they heard you say my name. You got that? Yes, I mean, sensei. Zoro nodded as they turned another corner. Unaware of the town's layout, the two had no choice but to wander and hope they found a decent weapon store. Time passed in something of a blur, but Koby was pretty sure they'd passed that man selling hats 3 times now, and his suspicions weren't helped by the confused look he turned on them. They turned yet another corner, one Koby was certain was not there the first 2 times, and began walking down another alleyway. Someone screamed down the way, a crowd of people quickly forming where the sound had originated. Though Koby could not see over the heads of the crowd, Zoro could tell the mass of people had formed around a black-haired woman in glasses carrying a bundle, said woman being harassed by a couple of thugs. The verdict shrugged, deciding it wasn't their business, and moved to continue on their way. Sensei, what's happening? Koby asked. Those guys are going to kill that poor girl, a woman in the crowd fretted. Nah, the man beside her laughed. I bet she'll give them a good pounding. Sensei, we have to help her. Koby insisted, still unsure about the situation but not letting his lack of knowledge compromise his morals. The woman in question unwrapped the bundle in her arms, the sword inside catching Zoro's attention. He grabbed Koby by the neck of his shirt, lifting him so he could see what was happening. Shut up and watch, shrimp. There wasn't much to watch, all in all. The fight was over within a second of the woman unsheathing her blade, both of the men who had been assaulting her crumpling to the cobblestones. Some in the crowd laughed and clapped for the woman who only them seemed to notice she was the center of attention. Her cheeks colored as she sheathed her sword, her rush to get away from the attention causing her to trip over her own feet. Her red glasses clattered over the cobblestones, skidding to a stop at the feet of the 2 straw hats. My glasses, she called, feeling around in her immediate area for them. I can't see, without my glasses. Here, Koby told her, bending down to pick up her glasses. She smiled in their direction, accepting them. Zoro tensed, his fists tightening. Thank you, the woman said. May I ask your name? I'm Koby. And this is my sensei. We're looking for a swordsmith since we came from a different island. Could you help us? Of course. Follow me. I'm Tashigai, by the way. Nice to meet you. Koby accepted the handshake she offered happily, while she had to grab Zoro by the hand and force one on him. She turned down the street quickly, marching back the way the pirates had come from. Zoro was fine letting Tashigai prattle on about sword techniques she had seen in the past. She didn't stop to turn at any point, leading them to a shop called the Katetsuru, its name stenciled onto a hanging sign with a dragon motif. Tashigai pushed the door open, causing the tinkling of a bell to ring. The person Koby assumed was the owner of the shop, a balding man sitting behind the counter, looked up from his newspaper. The store was otherwise empty. What do you want? He began before blinking, recognizing the foremost person in the trio. Oh, Tashigai. I've finished polishing your sword. Have you brought me new customers? Koby wasn't as interested in the adults' conversations, even if most of those adults were only 3 years his senior or so. Rather, he wanted to test what he had learned from Zoro about sword craftsmanship and find a pair he liked. Hey, Zoro grunted, walking up to the counter while pulling out the 4 swords they had stolen from the Arlong pirates, dropping them on the counter. My apprentice and I need some swords, 2 for each of us, preferably a matched pair for him and Katana for me. We can trade you these 4 and 200,000 beerus. What have you got? The shop owner stood from his stool and crouched over the counter, picking up one of the blades. He turned it over in his hands, humming. "They're older and well-used," he noted, squeezing the handle. "The tempering shows they were cooled in salt water as it was forged, suggesting fisherman origins. And they've been freshly polished, even if they have some wear. I'd price each at 25,000. How's that?" He trailed off, his eyes narrowing in on the white sword still at the verted's hip. "You know your stuff, old man," Zoro nodded, Tashigai's eyes widening at the information of the sword's origins. "Where'd you get fisherman swords?" she asked. "We ran into a small patrol of them," the swordsman lied. "They climbed onto our ship to attack us, but we managed to fight them off." "You must be a strong fighter to do that," the woman praised with a nod. That blade," the shop owner swallowed, a shaking finger pointing at the man's third weapon. That's a nice blade. Certainly, a higher quality than these. I can give you 200,000 for it. What do you say?" "No," Zoro answered simply. "You push a mean bargain. 300,000. It's not for sale." 600,000, final offer. "I'm not selling it." 750,000, then. "I need it." "Is that what I think it is?" Tashigai interrupted. "That's the Wado-Akamenji. It's worth at least 10 million beerus. Damn you, you loudmouth." The shop owner raged. "I should sue you for obstructing my business." "I wasn't gonna sell it anyway," Zoro muttered. "Oh, whatever," the owner waved, disheartened. "I gave you the offer for the used swords. Between that and the 200,000, that gives you 300,000 to work with. The cheapest stuff I have to offer are the swords and the barrels over there. 50,000 each. But if those are the cheapest you have, why are you giving us half that for the swords we brought?" Koby questioned. "That's a ripoff. I need to make money, kid," the man shot back. "Plus, they're old. They've probably only got another couple years use unless you've got a blacksmith to reforge them, and for these, you'd need to go to Fishman Island in the Grand Line. I sure as hell aren't. Take it or leave it." "We'll take it," Zoro responded, cutting off Koby's sharp reply. "Shrimp, get back to looking." "But..." Zoro turned, giving his student a look. "Yes, sensei. If I may, why do you need 3 swords?" Tashigai asked. "The only person I know of who would carry that many would be the bounty hunter or Noah Zoro." She spat the name as if it burned her tongue. "Is he an idol of yours or something?" "You could say that." The swordsman shrugged, himself and Koby rifling through the barrels of cheap swords. Tashigai's nose crinkled in distaste. "I frequently break swords because I can't afford ones that can stand up to my strength." "Now that's ridiculous," the woman replied. "I don't mean to offend you, but you'd have to be inhumanly strong for that. That or you have to always have bad blades you don't care for." Zoro turned to glare at the black-haired woman, but it was Koby that cut him off this time. "It sounds like you don't like him." "Rorinoa, I mean. Have you met him before?" "I don't need to," Tashigai sniffed. "He's a bounty hunter who kills people for money. Anyone who does that can't be called a true swordman. The only things worse than a bounty hunter are the pirates they hunt. Oh, sensei, look at this." Koby held up a sword in a blackened red sheath from the barrel he's been digging through. Zoro took the offered weapon, drawing a couple inches from the sheath. The blade had a flame-like temper and was colored purple, the blunt side darker than the sharpened end, which reflected the light. Tashigai gasped, pulling out the book she'd used to identify Wado-Akamenji and began flicking through it. "That's the Kaitetsu 3. She announced. "It's one of the famous 63 Uezumano." She turned to the store owner. "You're only selling 2 for 50,000? "You're right," he lamented, his head falling to the counter. "I can't sell you that blade." "Why not?" Koby blinked. "This sword is cursed," Zoro observed. Both Tashigai and the owner jilted. "How can you tell?" the man questioned. "I just do." Zoro smirked. "I'll take it." "No." the man yelped. "Nope. No way. I can't sell you that sword. Many great swordsmen have met their demise after taking on a Kaitetsu sword. Do you want to join them? Let's see which holds out. My good luck or this sword's curse." Zoro threw the blade upward, the metal glinting and flashing as it spun. "What are you doing?" Tashigi yelled as Zoro closed his eyes. "You fool!" The owner screamed, Zoro sticking his arm out. "You're gonna chop your arm off, Sensei!" Koby shouted as the sword reached its zenith and started falling. Time seemed to slow down as the metal just missed Zoro's flesh. The blade sunk into the floor. "I'll take it." The man smirked. Tashigi fell to her knees, having thought that she was going to see this man lose an arm. "You bastard!" Koby growled, punching Zoro in the leg as hard as he could, which was quite hard after all the training he'd been forced through. The older swordsman only laughed at him. The store owner scrambled upstairs and ran back down with something under a tarp. He unveiled it with a flourish, revealing a sword in a full black sheath. It's covered in a black lacquer finish with an uneven temper pattern. "This is the Ryaoism no Yubashiri," he introduced. "It's the greatest sword I have." "Why are you showing it to me?" Zoro asked, pulling Kaitetsu from the floor and resheathing it. "You know I'm basically broke. There's no way I could afford it." "I want you to have it," the man answered. "Free of charge. It's been a long time since I've met a man like you and I can tell that you'll become a legend. Please, take it. Call it an apology for trying to cheat a true swordsman." Thank you. I will gratefully accept. With this sword, I will make my name reach the heavens. Thank you. Now, with your original amount of 300,000 minus the 50,000 for the Kaitetsu, that leaves 250,000 biris, correct? I have a matching sword set here from an island in the Grand Line for 275,000 biris. They are similar to Jian swords, both sides, sharpened and slimmer than the average sword, making it good for single-handed stabbing as well as slashing. The blades each have a gold inlay of a jackal god called Anubis, and the crossguards and handles are stylized to look like a set of scales. The handles are long enough for both two-handed and one-handed grips and are wrapped in alabastane leather. The swords themselves were made in the Desert Kingdom as well, considering Anubis is one of their gods. They're nice, but we can't afford that, Zoro grunted, stopping Koby's reaching arms. For a student of yours, I'll give you a discount, the man responded. He raised the swords and offered them to the Rosette. Koby took the weapons from the man and gave them a few practice wings. They were heavier than he was used to, but that was nothing some practice couldn't fix. A smile stretched over his lips. I like them, Koby announced. They feel right. We'll take them, Zoro nodded. He handed over the fisherman's swords and all the money Nami had given them. Koby strapped the swords' red sheaths to his back the way he usually did, one handle over each shoulder, as his teacher slid his new weapons into the loop on the right side of his sash. Tashigi glanced at the clock and yelped. Shit. She cursed. I'm late for training. Captain Smoker is going to kill me. Good luck. You too. She turned, the door slamming in her wake. Another curse drifted in as she tripped, scrambling away. Wait, Koby got out. She's a Marine? Yup, the owner answered. A sergeant major and one of the best on the island. I'm glad we agreed to not say your name, Zoro-sensei. She really didn't like your reputation. The shop owner paled. Why, you were no Zoro? That a problem? The green-haired man asked. And not at all. I'm honored to have you in my shop. Good, but if anyone asks, I was never here. At least, not until tomorrow. Let's go, shrimp. Knowing Luffy, he's probably ticked off the Marines by now. Our captain does have that kind of track record, doesn't he? Don. Jin yelled, trying to find his captain's distinctive straw hat amongst the dense crowd. Don. Where are you? He turned, catching just a glimpse of yellow and red in the corner of his vision. Praying to whatever deity might listen, the former Krieg pirate pushed through the crowd, making his way to where he had seen it. He was lucky, his teenaged captain walking down the alleyway. Finally. "Oh, Jin," Luffy greeted, turning to see his crewmate. "Do you want to see the place Gold Roger died, too?" "No, Don Luffy. I was looking for you. You're going the wrong way anyway. We have to stay together in case something happens and we have to run. The main plaza is this way." Jin grabbed his captain's arm, pulling him back into the street. A robed figure stepped out from where they had been hiding in the shadows, a small snail in their palm. "Captain," the figure grinned. "The one you're waiting for, he's here." Unaware of such shady activity, the duo tried to push through the crowds the old-fashioned way, since the beheaded teen rocketing them though they would attract far too much attention. Because of that, it took almost half an hour for the pirates to finally step into the plaza. Finally, Luffy smiled as the platform came into view, the wider space allowing for more people to mill about. "The place where Gold Roger died. I want to see what he saw." "Wait, Don Luffy." Jin tried to reason, but he was too slow, his arm missing Luffy's shirt as the teen stretched forward and grabbed the edge of the platform. Jin could only stare in abject horror as Luffy stood where the former pirate king met his end, nearly every pair of eyes in the plaza now on the young pirate. "Did you see that?" a woman asked her friend, the two standing by Jin. The man froze his arms just like Captain Smoker. The friend nodded fearfully. "Wait, wasn't he in the paper? You mean that's him? The child pirate?" The friend pulled out the paper from the day before out of her bag, drawing out the wanted posters of the Straw Hat Pirates. Both women paled, slowly turning their attention on Jin. He blinked. Their screams echoed across the plaza at the same time the Marine who had been threatening to arrest Luffy was thrown away by a massive club. Panic erupted, citizens of Logtown running for their lives as many folks in robes gathered in the center of the plaza. The club in question was wielded by a beautiful, black-haired woman dressed in a pink, heart-themed shawl and jean shorts with a pink cowboy hat. Many of the men in the area, who were too captivated by her beauty to run, were staring at the woman with hearts in their eyes. "Dawn!" Jin yelled, crossing the plaza. "We have to leave. I've been looking for you, Monkey D. Luffy," the woman called up to the teen, swinging her iron mace to the side. Jin didn't see it coming, slamming into it in a full run, knocking himself silly. "I'm here to make you mine." "Do I know you?" Luffy asked, unconcerned for Jin. He was tough. "You really don't remember me?" the woman asked, pouting. "I certainly remember you. You were the first man to ever really hit me." "Ugh," Jin groaned from the cobblestones. "I never hit you." "You did," she insisted with a smile, cupping her face with her free hand, batting her eyelashes. She panted, making her ample chest bounce. "And it felt so good, too. Hit me more, baby." "You, gross," Luffy shivered. "I don't know you, lady. I can't have changed that much," she whined. "Maybe this can jog your memory." "Boys. Who's the fairest woman to sail the seas?" "You are beautiful." All the men roared. The lady basked in the praise. Luffy blinked, but by the look on his face it wasn't something good he remembered. "That club," Jin gasped, backing away from the woman now that the dizziness had passed. "Your Iron Club Alvida." "The one and only," the woman confirmed. "No way," Luffy denied. "You don't look like her, at all." "Well, after eating the smooth fruit, I did lose my freckles." "Yeah, that must be it," Luffy replied in his most sarcastic voice. "If you were Alvida, I'd have to give you a beating for hurting my nakama. When last we met, you were alone." "What nakama did I hurt?" She smirked, leaning toward the pirate captain. "Are you gonna punish me?" Luffy's fist zoomed down, hitting her face, but it did no damage. The attack literally slid off her cheek. Luffy was not deterred. "Koby." Alvida's face soured at the name. "That brat that I used as my cabin boy and was always spouting nonsense about joining the Marines? You took him onto your crew? Hell yeah I did. And he's gotten stronger. Don Luffy. Jin shouted. Look out. His cry came too late. A wooden stockade came down, capturing the teen's head and arms. Keeping the wood steady was a man with long, dark green hair covering one side of his face and a scarf, Koby the acrobat. Jin jumped to his feet before men grabbed him from behind, forcing him to his knees. Jin. Luffy yelled, drooping as if all his energy was sucked away from him. Long time no see, rubber freak, Koby sneered above him. Luffy struggled to escape, but the wooden stockade and the sea prism stone lining its insides held fast. The men in cloaks surrounded Alvida, throwing away their cloaks to show themselves as Buggy the Clown and his men. Everyone stay flashily where you are. Buggy yelled, his men drawing guns and holding everyone in the square hostage. Buggy himself detached from his feet, using his chop powers to fly up, sword in one hand and stolen megaphone in the other, to the stand and relieve Koby of his post. He smirked, bringing the megaphone to his lips. For the crime of being annoying and pissing me off, I, Buggy the Clown, sentence Straw Hat Luffy to death. Stay where you are and watch as I flashily execute this bastard. A large storm was brewing. Zoro could feel it, lifting his head from where he and Koby were polishing their new weapons when Usopp, Nami, and Sanji passed by. Usopp had a new pair of goggles and Sanji was carrying a large blue fish with tusks and a trunk. Nami was loaded with multiple bags of various colors and sizes filled with clothes she'd haggled down to near free prices. Hey, everyone. Koby called out to them, bringing them over. They talked for several minutes during which Nami mentioned that a huge storm was coming in rapidly. Sanji and Zoro had just agreed to go get Luffy and Jin when the voice of Buggy the Clown echoed across town. For the crime of being annoying and pissing me off, I, Buggy the Clown, sentence Straw Hat Luffy to death. Stay where you are and watch as I flashily execute this bastard. Shit. Nami, Zoro, and Koby yelled. Him again? Again? Sanji asked. What now? Usopp worried. Plaza or ship, everyone pick one, Zoro ordered, shoving his swords into his hair maki and getting to his feet. Himself, Sanji, and Koby, after some hesitation, turned toward the origin of the voice while Usopp and Nami started in the other direction. Sanji shoved the giant fish into Usopp's hands before he could leave. Go save that idiot. Nami yelled. If something happens to him, it will be all on your heads and I will take my pound of flesh after we avenge him. You got that? Yeah, whatever. Zoro shouted, Koby grabbing his wrist to keep him from going down an alleyway. The trio hurried through the street, going against the stampeding crowd until they reached the center of town. Buggy stood on the scaffold, a sword in his hand and the wind of the coming storm making his cape flap. Jin was off to the side, several men holding him down despite his increasing efforts to shake them off. Blah ha ha ha. Buggy laughed, reveling in the limelight. I am Buggy the Clown, the man who will claim every treasure on land. Blah ha ha ha. Luffy, Captain. Three voices called, Zoro and Koby already unsheathing their weapons. Zoro. Luffy yelled. Sanji. Koby. Zoro? Buggy growled. Koby? Alvida questioned. No one said Sanji's name, considering it was new compared to when they fought these opponents last time. You rubber-brained idiot. Sanji called, lighting a cigarette and tapping his foot. You can't die, yet. That'd make Nami Swan cry. I can't allow that. Let's go, Irocook, Shrimp, Zoro agreed. With no more communication, the three fighters charged. Get them, Buggy yelled, his crew giving a battle cry and moving to meet the rival pirates. Captain Smoker. Tashigai saluted, finding her commander on the upper floor of a building by the plaza. If I may, why are we waiting here when pirates are fighting in the plaza? There are still citizens down there. They are not in any danger, Smoker responded. He was a tough man with white hair and a scar running down the left side of his face, two cigars smoking in his lips as he watched the growing battle below through a pair of binoculars. He nodded, offering them to his second. The pirates are focused on each other right now. We'll let them take each other out and sweep in to arrest them all when they're done. Tashigi accepted the binoculars, her gaze roving over the battle below until she froze, her eyes first seen pink, then green. They lied to me, she hissed. How dare they, those damn pirates. Down below, Zoro and Sanji found themselves swarmed by mooks, cannon fodder who did not stand a chance against them but were dangerous in numbers. Koby, however, was facing a different sort of battle. Well, the silky voice of a woman chuckled, the raven-haired woman in question, stepping through the crowd. When I heard my darling Luffy say he had taken you into his fold, I didn't know what to think, but here you are, Koby. Do I? Koby trailed off, the voice clicking in his mind even if the body it came from was so radically different. Even so, there was no mistaking the club she carried. He took a step back, trembling. Alvida. So you do recognize me, the beauty smirked, her weapon cracking the stones at her feet. If you bow to me again here and now, I won't kill you. How does that sound? I'm planning on making Luffy mine anyway, so it won't change much. After all, I'm the most beautiful woman, so you can forgive me, right? I. Koby shook, rage boiling over the confines of his fear. He renewed his grip on his swords. You hag. How dare you, you kidnapped me and held me captive for 2 whole years until Captain Luffy saved me, and you think I'll forgive you because you aren't fat anymore? I'll show you how much I've changed since then. Koby charged, much to Alvida's surprise. She snarled, bringing her club up as the rosette approached. Koby, however, was prepared for that, matching the woman's strength with his own in a block that caught her weapon. You brat. The woman hissed, straining against the teen. I'll crush you into a paste. Watch as the years of abuse come back to bite you, Alvida, Koby growled. With these swords, like the fangs of a wolf, I will prove I've gotten stronger. You little shit. Alvida kicked her shoes off, now sliding freely with the use of her smooth powers. Koby spun, trying to keep track of her. A grunt tried to take a chance, charging in on the young pirate. The student swordsman heard him coming, however, jumping into a circular double slash that cut across the goon's torso. Though he didn't last long, the man's attack distracted Koby long enough for him to lose sight of his former tormentor. Time to die, brat. Koby spun at Alvida's yell, the woman sliding toward him at in incredible speed. Smooth talking club. Streaming wolf swords. Koby twisted, bending backwards under the club that had haunted his nightmares for years. He moved on near instinct, twisting around with a low sweep that caught the woman's ankles, his new blade singing through the air toward Alvida's neck. He almost caught her, the woman contorting herself so the points of the blades only barely caught her, her powers making them slide over her skin without damage. The same could not be said for her flowing black hair, however, the sword slicing through the follicles without resistance. The two spun apart, glaring at each other as Alvida's hair fell to the stones between them. How dare you? Alvida roared. Do you have any last words, Straw Hat? Buggy demanded through his megaphone. Yeah, I've got a few, Luffy answered. I am the man. WHO will be the king of the pirates. The fight below stalled at Luffy's proclamation, the entire plaza going silent. An almost physical force pulsed, leaving everything quiet for a minute. Bwahahaha. Buggy laughed, holding his gut. Yes, he recognized the force as something that should not be in the East Blue, but its owner clearly didn't know how to control it and was, at the moment, completely at his mercy. There was nothing for Buggy to fear. Bwahahaha. You say that as you die. What a moron. Well, it's time for this show to end. Luffy smiled. Luffy. Zoro and Sanji yelled. Dawn. Jin cried. Captain. Koby screamed. He smiled? Smoker whispered, surprised, as Buggy's sword came down. But Luffy's death was not to be. Lightning struck the platform with a boom just as it started to rain, the charge attracted to the metal of the sword in Buggy's hand. The strike caused a sonic boom that raced across the plaza, blowing pirates like the ones holding Jin onto their backs. The famous scaffold caught fire and tilted, quickly falling to the ground in a mess of burning wood. Luffy's hat fluttered to the ground where a slim hand picked it up. Luffy placed it on his head and laughed as Buggy's burned form twitched beside him. "Oh, I'm alive. That's nice." Jin, who had thrown off his attackers when the lightning struck, dropped his weapons in shock. Sanji's cigarette fell from his mouth. Zoro barely held on to Watafumanji with his teeth. Smoker, from his position in an adjacent building, dropped his cigars. Tashigai beside him let the binoculars she was using fall from her grasp. "That's nice?" Jin roared, picking up his weapons and hitting Luffy over the head. "You had us worried sick, Don Luffy." The rubber man only laughed in response, unaffected by the blunt force. "Now!" Smoker ordered, throwing a plume of smoke into the sky. That was the signal, a whole platoon of Marines filing into the square. They surrounded the pirates, guns ready to fire at a moment's notice. At the lead of this charge was a woman Zoro and Koby recognized. A cloud of white smoke came down next to Marine Sergeant Major Tashigai and took the form of Marine Captain Smoker. Buggy the Clown, Iron Club Alvida, Man Demon Jin, Pirate Hunter Zoro, and Straw Hat Luffy, the man announced. "My name is Marine Captain Smoker. You and all members of your crews are under arrest. Please come quietly. Time to go," Luffy announced. He spun his right arm around Zoro, Sanji, Koby and Jin and shot his left up to latch onto a chimney on the edge of the square. His arm retracted, taking him and his 4 crewmen with it. Smoker tried to stop them, but the rain slowed his smoke just enough to let the pirates get away, for now. "Hurry," Nami insisted. "We have to get back to the ship. The Marines may already be there." "Can't we just drop the fish?" Usopp yelled. "Of course not," Nami admonished him as the Mary came into view. In front of the ship was Maji and his lion, Richie. "Well, if it isn't the little thief," Maji yelled. "You're not getting past us." "Sick him, Richie." The lion pounced. Usopp tried to reach his satchel, but the elephant Bluefin Tuna was in the way. Nami tried to counter as well, but all the shopping bags she was carrying hampered her efforts. Both of them dodged to the side, the fish in Usopp's hands falling to the dock. Richie turned, his eyes locked on the fish. "No, Richie. Get them." "Not the fish. Smoke Star. Pepper Star. Tabasco Star." Usopp's projectiles flew true through the rain, the first 2 hitting the lion in the eyes while the last went down its throat. Richie screamed, breathing fire, and backpedaled into Maji before both fell into the water. Usopp and Nami both blinked, impressed that it worked. With them out of the way, the duo clambered onto the ship. They were just in time as the Marines that had been pursuing them exited one of the roads. The Marines started shooting at the ship, guns and cannons going off making the choppy waves bigger. "We have to take off now," Nami yelled. "If we don't, the ship'll sink. We'll come back for the others later." The two started to pull out. The Marines cried out, falling one by one. There, where they had been, were Sanji and Koby. "Nami!" Sanji yelled in love mode despite the situation. "I'm coming." They chased the ship, beating off Marines as they caught up. Usopp provided cover fire from the ship, but the rough seas hampered his aim. Sanji dove into the water to get closer, his legs propelling him through the water, while Koby chose to stay on the dock since he wasn't as strong a swimmer. His movements looked almost like a dance as he accustomed himself to his new swords. "Where's Luffy?" Nami asked as Sanji climbed over the Mary's railing. "Fighting Smoker," Sanji replied, shivering. "He'll catch up. He's too stubborn to die." Earlier, Nami Swan was right about this storm. Sanji shouted over the rain. "We need to hurry." "No duh. Zoro yelled back. Luffy. Do you know which way the ship is? Nope. The teen responded. It's this way, past the bakery. Koby yelled, turning down a wide street. Behind them, the cries of a pack of Marines echoed through the wind. A figure loomed in the fog before them, the haze lifting to reveal Tashigi as they got closer. Who is that? Sanji asked with hearts in his eyes. Roar no Zoro. Tashigi demanded. You and your student are liars and pirates. I cannot allow you to leave this island with your swords. Give me the Wado Akamanji, the Kaitetsu 3, the Yubashiri, and the Alabastian Giants. Now. She unsheathed her own, unnamed sword. Zoro did the same, drawing Kaitetsu 3. He lunged forward with one sword, catching her forward slash. Moron. Sanji yelled angrily. You can't just attack a woman. Back off. The swordswoman demanded. This is our fight. I don't need any help. Especially from a filthy pirate like you. Get out of here. Zoro ordered as the two clashed. But Zoro-sensei. Koby tried to protest. Go, shrimp. Trust me, I'll be fine. Jin. Luffy said. Stay here to help him find his way back. I trust you can fight off the Marines. And you know my rule about killing? Yes, Don Luffy, the man-demon answered. No killing unless they specifically threaten our nakama. The captain, student, and chef skirted around the fight as Jin turned and charged the horde following them, tonfa spinning. Marimo. Sanji shouted as he passed. If you hurt her, I'm gonna kick your ass. They left. You will not get away, Tashigi growled. The two were locked at a stalemate. That was, until Zoro pulled out a second sword, the Yubashiri. He was taunting her, not using the Wado Akamanji that she wanted so much, but she had no time to think about that. The pirate hunter's attack speed doubled, forcing the Marine into a constant state of defense. Behind them, Jin had knocked all of his own opponents unconscious. Zoro backed her into a wall, disarming her and stabbing the brick next to her head. They stared into each other's eyes, one with hate and fear, the other, subdued confusion and arrogance with a hint of pain. Tashigi's sword clattered to the ground a few feet away. I hate to disappoint, Zoro began, but you'll never get this sword from me. He sheathed his blades and made to leave. Why didn't you kill me? Tashigi growled. Is it because I'm a woman? That just because I'm physically weaker than you, I'm not worth the effort? Shut up. Zoro snapped, silencing her. You look like my rival who died many years ago, okay? You look like her and now you're talking like her, too. It's bringing up memories I'd rather not see, so just back off. The Marine was speechless. Besides, Luffy has a rule about killing. Let's go, Jin. The other man responded. They ran off, leaving the sergeant major to fall to her knees in defeat. Meanwhile, I see the harbor. Luffy cheered. Not so fast, Smoker ordered, materializing in front of them. You can't leave until you beat me. Really? Luffy questioned. Sanji, Koby, go on ahead. I'll catch up later. No you won't. This will be the end of you, Straw Hat Luffy. Luffy faced his enemy as Sanji and Koby darted around. The rubber man jumped forward, punching at the Marine captain. Smoker responded by turning his body into smoke and grabbing the teen. What is this? Luffy yelled. I ate the plume fruit. I'm made of smoke. Smoker provided, slamming the black-haired pirate into the ground before throwing Luffy over his shoulder. Gah! Luffy gasped, his back hitting a brick building hard. The impact left him rattled, his legs like jelly as they touched the rain-soaked stone. He crumpled. What's wrong? Done already? Luffy pulled himself up with a grimace, thrusting his arms forward multiple times with a cry of gum gum gatling. His fists rained down on the Marine, but his attacks did nothing. Smoke screen. Smoker shouted, pinning Luffy to the building behind him. You're not worth 30 million, the Marine taunted. Smoker went for his jut, alternately spelled JIT, to finish the rubber man off, but the hand of a man hidden by green cloak grabbed the Marine's wrist, said hand covered in a black sheen. All movement froze as lightning struck in the distance, illuminating the red tattoo design on the right side of the man's face. Oh shit, Smoker paled, trying to pull his hand free but unable to. Why are you here? The world is still waiting for our answer, the man said mysteriously. And I have high hopes for this pirate. He's going to go far. A heavy wind with a green tint filled the streets, blowing Smoker away and Luffy, as well as Zoro and Jin, to the docks. Koby ducked as they arrived. Many Marines he had been locked in a stalemate with being flung into the sea by the wind. Luffy! Nami shouted from the ship, the caravel a fair distance from the shore. Luffy could barely hear her, but it was enough to roughly know her location. Stay there, Luffy told the other men on the shore. I've got this. He ran back, stretching his arms out to grab the corners of the street. The pirate lined himself up with his 3 crew members and the Going Merry before jumping and snapping forward. Gum Gum Rocket. Oh damn, Zoro cursed just before impact. They blasted forward, much to Zoro, Koby, and Jin's chagrin. Usopp threw a lasso at them, pulling them down to the deck. Luffy ended up falling on Nami, but he just pecked her on the lips before getting up, much like she had when leaving Kokoyashi. They didn't have much time to dwell on that. The storm growing worse around them. Nami pointed them in the direction they needed to go, the crew sailing until the light of a lighthouse shone through the darkness. That's it, Nami told them with a somewhat hysterical laugh. The entrance to the Grand Line is somewhere up ahead. This is it, Luffy exclaimed, placing his foot on an extra barrel. I'm gonna be the king of the pirates. Sanji followed, his foot joining Luffy's. I'm going to find the All Blue. To be the world's greatest swordsman. To draw a map of the whole world. To overcome my fear of that sea and reach its end. Jin nodded. To be a brave warrior of the sea. To see Luffy achieve his dream. Koby added. And to become a hero my parents would be proud of. Yeah. They all cheered, smashing the barrel. Chapter 6. Several days sailing and a very short tryst into the calm belt brought the Going Merry to the base of Reverse Mountain and its current that flowed upward. Nami tried to explain to the crew how it was the temperature difference between the warm water from the calm belt and the cold waters of the East Blue that caused a current force strong enough to force water up the mountain, but no one else really seemed interested. Getting on the right path was risky, but they made it work with Luffy's rubber powers, quickly reaching the peak of Reverse Mountain and following the flow down. There, first sight of the Grand Line was shrouded in fog, the layer of white hiding the base of the mountain from them as the Merry gained speed. Woo! Luffy cheered, an arm wrapped around the top of the mast as the wind resistance caused his body to flail backwards like a flag. This is the best. My ears. Koby cried, the sudden ride up and the subsequent descent causing his eardrums to pop, painfully. Woo, did you hear that? Nami screamed, her voice being ripped away in the wind. What? Usopp yelled back, clinging to the railing. Was it the sound of my love? Sanji swooned, releasing his hold on the ship. The wind pressure launched him backwards, slamming him into the wall by the kitchen's door and pinning him there. Woo, no, that. The navigator yelled as the sound echoed over the mountain. You heard it that time, right? I heard something. Koby offered. Was it a foghorn? Oh shit. Jin yelled, fighting the wind to grab Nami's arm as a black lump began to emerge from the mist. It surfaced at the bottom of the mountain. If and we don't stop, we're gonna crash. What's surfaced? Nami demanded. Thailand whale. A whale. Koby demanded. Running into one of those at this speed could crush the Merry. What? Luffy gasped, all the fun sucked away at that declaration. Usopp. Koby. Sanji. Get to the rudder. Right. The trio slipped and slid toward the meal room where the rudder was located, quickly grounding themselves before pushing the rudder to the right as hard as they could. Unfortunately, The current was just too strong, the opposing forces causing the rudder to give way, breaking with a sharp crack. "We're getting closer," Zoro yelled. The rudder broke. Usopp pancaked. "Why didn't you mention the whale before?" Nami shouted at Jin. It was still sunclass time. Jin snapped. Luffy ran to the cannon under the figurehead as the ship grew closer to the bottom, his crews screaming in the wind. Lucky that they kept it loaded. He lit the fuse and fired, the opposing momentum slowing the Mary just enough to avoid sinking. It was not, however, enough to stop the impact. Everyone on the ship was thrown to the deck as the Mary came to a halt, her figurehead snapping off and falling to the deck with a thump. Luffy didn't seem to care that they were lucky for only that amount of damage, though. "You bastard!" he shouted at the whale, a large, black mammal whose entire nose was covered in great, crisscrossing scars. Zoro and Jin jumped for the oars, rowing around the large sea mammal as fast as they could to try to avoid an incident. "That was my special seat," the rubber teen yelled, not caring about the worries of his crew. The captain threw his arm forward, nailing the giant in its giant eye. "You idiot!" everyone yelled, Nami going the extra mile and hitting her boyfriend over the head as hard as she could. The hit dropped Luffy like a sack of potatoes, leaving the captain all but sunk into the wooden paneling of the deck. The whale's mouth opened as it cried in pain, sucking in hundreds of millions of gallons of water, and the going merry with it. The Straw Hats had just been eaten by a whale. The ride down the whale's gullet was anything but fun, the Mary bumping into the walls and being tossed to and fro from the waves, sending the 7-person crew tumbling end over end. Sanji, Usopp, and Koby were somewhat safe in the dining room with the now broken rudder, but those on the deck were not as confined. The rocking threw Zoro into the railing where his head lodged between two of the posts. Nami screamed as she tipped over the ship, but a quick stretch of Luffy's arm brought her back to the mast where Luffy was secure. The captain, however, did not have time to do the same for Jin, the former Krieg getting thrown by a bad collision with the wall and sent into the water below. "Man overboard!" Zoro called from the railing. Unfortunately, the Mary was just too chaotic at the moment for anyone to do anything other try to find Jin's head bobbing in the current behind them. Their momentum, however, was all but halted in a moment as the rush of water hit the bow, emptying into what appeared to be a yellowish lake. The Mary tipped forward as the opposing forces equalized, falling back with a definitive splash. "Help!" Jin yelled as he was carried into the lake by the current, the flowing water sending his head under. Luffy jumped to his feet, Nami wrapped in one arm, and hurried to the stern. "There!" Nami told him, pointing at a grasping hand in the lake. Luffy responded by throwing his free arm forward, the hand latching onto him before he pulled back. "Look, guys!" Luffy joked as he hauled the man-demon onto the deck. He was panting and soaked, his clothes with new holes that looked like they were getting bigger as the cloth dissolved from whatever was coating him. "I caught a big one." "Now isn't the time for jokes, Captain Luffy," Koby whined as he and the others stumbled out of the dining room, a large bruise on the right side of his face from where some of Usopp's flailing had been too close. Seeing no immediate danger, most of the crew took in their surroundings while Sanji eyed Luffy's left arm, which was still around Nami's waist, with disdain. They seemed to be on a yellow-green sea. Fluffy white clouds hung in an azure sky. Birds could be seen soaring through them, but their calls were nowhere to be heard. A tiny island seemed to bob in the water, a tiny house atop it. "Where are we?" Usopp wondered, taking in the still sky. "I can't hear or see the mystery current at all." "There isn't any wind either," Nami added. "Water burns," Jin moaned, trying to shake himself dry. "Didn't we get eaten?" Zoro questioned, finally pulling his head free. "Luffy punched that big whale. That's ridiculous, Zoro-sensei," Koby laughed. We didn't. Did we? Maybe whoever lives in that house can give us some answers," Sanji suggested, lighting a cigarette, only for their view of the island to vanish behind a giant, pink beast. "Giant squid." Nami Koby and Usopp screamed, the latter two grabbing each other in fear and the former grabbing the captain. The monster trio smirked, ready for a fight. 3 harpoons sprouted from its head and 3 spurts of blood before the squid fell backwards, dead. Following the lines from the projectiles, the crew found a man in the doorway of the house. Could it be? Jin muttered before the man stepped into the light, his accent gone once more. He was an older man who was balding, but his lack of hair was augmented by the purple and yellow petals that made up a plume-like thing on the back of his head. A Hawaiian shirt and purple shorts covered his form, and a round pair of glasses sat on his face. It's Old Man Crocus. You know this guy? Zoro asked, eyeing the stranger warily. Yeah, the former Krieg pirate answered. He greeted us the last time I entered the Grand Line and gave us a lug pose. Hi. Luffy waved, releasing Nami from his grip. That was really cool, but can you tell us where we are? Isn't it obvious? The other man asked. You were just swallowed by an island whale. We were eaten? Usopp panicked, again. We're all gonna die. Oh, calm down, boy, Crocus placated. I can get you out easy enough, but boom. An explosion blew the doors off a hatch somewhere up above, dragging attention to a pair of eccentrically dressed figures, a man and a woman, on a metal balcony, both armed with rocket launchers. The man had medium-length, ginger hair, a dark green vest with a red ascot, and a crown on his head. 2 marks like the number 9 were painted on his cheeks, one under each eye, and he also had green disco pants and shiny, black boots. The woman had long, light blue hair in a single ponytail and pale skin. She was dressed in a purple and pale blue zigzag crop top that accentuated her assets, a light green coat, and white shorts. She also wore heeled boots to make her the same height as her apparent partner. As the Straw Hats and Crocus watched, the man of the pair posed, one hand touching his forehead with the weapon resting on his shoulder. We are claiming this whale, he declared. Its meat will be our saving grace. To protect our town from hunger, we will take it to our living place. To deny us is folly, it shan't work, so we are all set. Rockets, go. The woman finished, the pair firing their weapons. The rockets zoomed across the whale's stomach, exploding and leaving a scorch mark on the Foskai mural. The whale cried out, the water around them turning into a dangerous, choppy lake. It seems that wasn't enough, Miss Wednesday, the man commented, nonchalant. Indeed not, Mr. 9, Miss Wednesday agreed. The pair prepped their weapons again, but they hadn't taken into account the people in their surroundings. While Crocus prepared to show up these chumps one more time why taking the whale was a lost cause, Luffy didn't see this before he acted himself. The teen's hand shot out, one grabbing the man's shirt and the other wrapping around the woman's waist several times. Both screamed, losing their grips on their weapons as Luffy pulled them to the ship. The sound of the rocket launchers falling into the water below was lost in the paint shot of Mr. 9 hitting the deck. Miss Wednesday would have joined him, but Sanji caught her in his arms. My lady, Sanji muttered, hearts in his eyes. You. The Bleenet gagged, smacking the chef for thinking he was having lecherous thoughts. She may not have been that far from the truth. Be that as it may, smacking the one holding her left Miss Wednesday at the mercy of gravity, dropping her to the deck as well. Sanji. Koby fretted, the boy's teacher rolling his eyes. Who are you people? Miss Wednesday demanded. You aren't in any position to ask that, Nami told her, grabbing a rope and quickly tying up their new captive. Once Wednesday was secure, Mr. 9 was quick to follow, though he was unconscious for the ordeal. The Mr. 9 pair, Crocus commented from the island, relaxing his stance. That's what these morons call themselves. They've been trying to kill Laboon for the past few months. Laboon? Usopp asked. The whale, Crocus explained, hopping onto the Mary with a single leap and directing them toward a metal hatch in the side of the whale's stomach. Some pirates left Laboon with me many years ago, but they haven't returned since. That's a hatch, Usopp gaped as the Mary sailed the short distance between Laboon and a little plateau connected to the red line where Crocus had another small house. Does that hurt the whale? As Usopp questioned the morality of hollowing out a living whale, Crocus told the crew of his bond with Laboon and how he came to be the whale's caretaker. That was over 50 years ago, and Laboon had been hitting his head on the red line for all that time, convinced that his friends, the Rumbar pirates, were still alive and traveling. I keep telling him they're gone, Crocus sighed, Laboon wailing in the distance, but he won't listen to me. Them being dead is the best case scenario. Some rumors I heard said they fled into the calm belt. I know. Luffy blinked, his arms wrapping around the Mary's mast. I'll cheer him up. Oh no you don't. Nami yelled, Koby, Usopp, and Jin right behind her as two of them grabbed Luffy by the arms and the others by his head. If you want to fight that whale, you can have at it, but you are not tearing apart the Mary to do so. I wasn't. Luffy began. Oh, maybe, I was. Oops. Shishishi. Dawn, please think about this, Jin pleaded. That whale needs a reason to not hurt himself, right? The captain asked, letting go of the mast and shaking his crewmates off. I'll go give him one. You all can talk to old Crocus. Koby corrected. Luffy didn't listen, rocketing away and punching Laboon in his fresh wound. And he's gone, Usopp sighed. While everyone else called Luffy an idiot for fighting the whale, they got to work repairing the ship, the most noticeable addition being the steel plate holding the figurehead in place, almost looking like a choker. Luffy's yelling mixed with the whale's calls, both echoing across the red line. These pirates are crazy. Miss Wednesday hissed, kicking her partner awake while the navigator had her back turned. Come on. Wait. Mr. Nine cried, too late as both were already over the edge. He screamed as they plunged into the water. Are they going to be fine? Jin asked, looking over the cliff down toward the bubbles that showed where the pair had gone under. Sanji joined him, the bubbles slowing to a stop. They froze, glancing at each other. We don't have to, Jin began. My poor Melrine, Sanji cried, pushing Jin over the edge before tossing his coat aside and diving into the water. Koby stepped into the space they had occupied, bending down to pick up a strange sort of compass on a watchband. Hey, Nami, he said, turning to the only female crew member as Sanji and Jin surfaced with the sputtering Mr. Nine pair. Is this one of those log post things you and Jin talked about a couple days ago? Looks like it, she nodded, taking the device from the rosette. Off in the distance, Luffy's fight with Laboon came to an abrupt end, the pirate ruling it a draw. In the end, Luffy painted his disfigured drawing of the Straw Hat Jolly Roger on the whale's scarred head, forcing Laboon to stop beating it against the red line lest the skull and crossbones be ruined and their deal for Luffy to return be off. Hey! Mr. Nine cried out as Jin and Sanji finished scaling the cliffside, the captive agents slung over their shoulders. That's my log pose. Give it back. Pirates. Nami taunted, poking her tongue out at the disgruntled agent. Oh, Sanji. Would you please get lunch started? Yes, Nami Swan. The chef answered, noodling away. I see you've got yourself a log pose, Crocus grinned, unfazed by having watched its reacquisition. It's a necessary tool here on the Grand Line. Normal compasses don't work, and while you can tell directions by the sun, that's not going to get you to the next island. See, the islands in the Grand Line have an unusual amount of magnetic core in them, and this causes each to have its own magnetic field. This messes with regular compasses, but the log pose is designed to lock onto an island's field until you get there. Then it will take a certain amount of time to reset and lock onto the next island, though every island's reset time is different. Also, these magnetic fields don't interact with each other well, causing the weather between islands to do things that would be otherwise impossible. Be careful. This first stretch is the hardest part until you go past the Sabeti archipelago and reach the second half. That's wild. Nami blinked, checking her compass. Just as Crocus had explained, The compass needle was spinning endlessly, unable to track north. "Dinner's ready," Sanji called. Nami Swan. "Wednesday-chan. I've prepared you a delicious feast. Oi, shitheads and old guy. Come get food." Everyone gathered at the chef's call with various levels of enthusiasm, and soon were all eating, drinking, being merry, and defending their plates rather well from Luffy's thievery, minus the agents. Miss Wednesday was seated in a chair with Mr. 9 on the ground beside her. Both of them were still tied up, resulting in neither being able to feed themselves. Sanji was doing his best to feed Miss Wednesday, but she refused everything he offered, staring out over the ocean. Her stomach rumbled. "Could," she began, swallowing her pride. "Could you please take us back to our home?" The woman seemed pained by the words. "No one will you apologize for trying to kill Laboon," Luffy answered instantly through a mouthful of fish. Nami smacked him, slamming the captain's head into the table. He popped up, laughing. "I cannot apologize," the Blinette responded. "We were hunting the whale to help feed our home because there is a food shortage. I can only promise that we will not hunt this whale again." Her stomach growled again, causing the woman to blush. "I guess I can understand that," Luffy blinked. "Okay. Koby, cut their ropes. I'm inviting them to eat with us." "Are you sure that is wise, Don Luffy?" Jin questioned as Koby stood, taking his plate with him due to the knowledge that it would be raided if he left it. 2 swift cuts freed the duo from their bonds. "I don't think they're trustworthy," Jin finished. "Might I remind you of your origins before joining this crew?" Zoro pointed out, stabbing Yubashiri into the table millimeters from Luffy's fingers. Touché. Miss Wednesday shuffled in her seat, Mr. 9 standing beside her. Sanji stood, setting a glass before the woman and pouring her some wine. She eyed it carefully, Nami accepting a refill without preamble. "So what happened to your boat?" the navigator asked as Mr. 9 sat on a lawn chair at the table, hesitantly filling a plate of his own. "It was destroyed by a storm," the other woman scowled. "And you thought you could carry the whale back without a ship?" "Yes." "Oh. Where do you live?" "A town called Whiskey Peak. It's one of the first islands in the Grand Line." "Then that sounds like Urdisa Nation," Luffy interjected. Nami smacked him for talking with his mouth full again. "So you'll take us home?" Ms. Wednesday blinked, wide-eyed. "Sure," Luffy shrugged. "Why not? We need to pick a route anyway." That settled, lunch became a more subdued affair. Luffy continued to snag food from all but Nami, but he became less successful as the meal went on. With lunch over and the going merry repaired, they crew +2 prepared to depart on their first adventure into the Grand Line. "Let's go." Luffy cheered from his special seat, Crocus waving and Laboon calling out his own goodbye. Onward. To Whiskey Peak, batten down the hatches and tie off the sails. Nami screamed, praying to whatever deity would listen that her words would reach the mast only a dozen feet ahead of her. Thunder boomed and the wind howled, everything in nature seemingly out to achieve one goal: sink the Going Merry. Everyone on the ship, except for Zoro but including the crew's passengers, screamed, running to and fro at the behest of the navigator, every one of her directions saving them from capsizing by inches. "Gum Gum Balloon!" Luffy yelled, his inflated torso catching a boulder-sized hailstone that would have smashed through the Mary's deck had he not acted. A Sea-King surfaced as he deflated, the monster eyeing the ship like one eyes an unwatched cupcake on a table. It gave a roar, only to be struck by a bolt of lightning that would have otherwise struck the Mary's mast. Usopp screamed as the wave from the falling Sea-King rose and the surrounding temperature plummeted. The seawater froze, turning to snow that splashed over the ship, blanketing even the sleeping swordsman in fine, cold powder. Somehow, Zoro snored on. Nami breathed a sigh of relief, the storm disappearing in moments, leaving only sunshine and a nice spring breeze with the faintest whiff of mint. The snow began melting. "We're alive," Jin whispered as he hugged the mast to stay on his feet. his pupils little more than pinpricks against the whites of his eyes. Tears built, threatening to run down his cheeks. We're actually alive. It's just a storm. We're alive. It's just a storm. What's his problem? Mr. Nine asked, slumping against the railing. Bad memories, Usopp answered, a rope tied around his waist to prevent falling overboard. Again. Enough chat. Nami yelled. It's back. But the storm. Koby began, only for the sunlight to vanish mid-word. Lightning flashed. Withdrawn. How the hell is the mosh head asleep? Sanji demanded. No one had an answer, nor did they have time to wake him as fish started raining sideways. The Going Merry bobbed in the water. Whiskey Peak in the horizon as the sun just touched the sea, a light fog dancing over the island in the distance. Holy shit, Jin cursed, a half-crazed grin stretched over his lips. We did it. We did it, we did it, we did it. He cackled, repeating his words again and again as if that would help him come to terms with the fact that this little caravel just did what 50 galleons had not, though. There was no warlord this time. What a good nap, Zoro yawned, standing. He turned, eyeing his crashed and muttering crewmates. Come on, guys. We're on the water. This is no time for everyone to be sleeping. Go chew on a sword, Nami wheezed, her voice strained. Geez, the swordsman shrugged. Come on. It's a beautiful day and the water is calm. The trip here can't have been that bad, Zoro-sensei. I respect you a lot, Koby panted, pushing himself up from where he was lying face down, so I think you know what it means when I say screw you? You lazy bastard. Well, anyway. Mr. Nine called, him and his partner flipping onto the railing. We really must thank you for the ride, but we really must be going, the female finished. Bye-bye, baby. The two exclaimed together, diving off the side of the ship and swimming the rest of the way to the island. Well, that's one way to make an exit, Nami commented, confused. The Mary continued her course, sailing into an inlet of the island. Shapes danced in the mist on either side, dropping an eerie feeling on the crew. I don't like this, Jin muttered, his weapons fidgeting in his hands. It feels like we're walking into an ambush. Be ready for anything, Zoro ordered, him and his student readying their weapons. This could go downhill real fast. The fog lifted, to reveal a cheering crowd welcoming them to Whiskey Peak. Welcome to the Grand Line. Pirates. Warriors of the high seas. Thank you for coming. They have some pretty cute crew members. One woman called. Dibs on the blonde one. Another shouted, no. He's mine. I saw him first. Are people really this welcoming on the Grand Line? Koby asked, lowering his blades. Look at all the cute girls. Sanji exclaimed with hearts in his eyes, dancing his noodle dance. I've never seen so many in one place. The Going Merry dropped anchor at a small dock, allowing the pirates to disembark. A large man with blonde hair shaped into 3 layers of curls that wrapped around his entire head and a suit stepped up to them. Ma. He called, clearing his throat. I am Igarapoy, the mayor of this town. Nice to meet you. I'm Luffy. I like your curls. Thank you. We have heard of your exploits, Straw Hat Luffy, so ma. So let us welcome a celebrity such as yourself with a party. The townsfolk threw up a cheer and swept the pirates away one by one. Shrimp, Zoro hissed, grabbing Koby by the arm as Sanji was all but carried away by a pack of women. Don't let your guard down and don't leave my sight. I have a bad feeling about this place. Yes, sensei. Luffy ate himself full for once in his life, but it took 3 chefs and 4 hours for him to do so. Usopp began detailing his many adventures to anyone who would listen and fell asleep while recounting when he fought a giant goldfish at 5 years old for the 7th time that night. Sanji was flirting with 20 girls at once before falling asleep while lying across the laps of several of them. Nami, Jin, and Zoro were dragged into a drinking contest with a prize of 100,000 beerus while Koby watched. The final 2, Zoro having passed out after his 13th cup and Jin his 14th, were Nami and a dark-skinned nun. "You're already dropping out?" Nami questioned with a drunken slur. "Jin. You wuss. There is no shame in dropping out now, my child," the nun insisted, trying to hold her composure. "Goda, the author of fate, will still love us all equally." "Not on your life, sister," Nami responded, a heavy blush over her cheeks. "I never give up when money's involved." The two chugged another cup. Nami swayed and the nun smirked, only for the religious woman to collapse to the table, snoring. "Haha." Nami laughed, fumbling for the sack of money. She stood once she got a hold of it. "Nami, be careful," Koby advised, stepping forward to offer some help. "I'm fine, she stuttered, trying to take a step, only to wobble as if her legs were made of jello. The rosette led her to where Luffy had passed out on the floor and the navigator promptly fell next to him, curling up into his side and snuggling with her winnings. Koby smiled down at the scene as the lights dimmed, the party the locals had thrown coming to an end. Nodding to himself, Koby wandered over to the sofa where Zoro lay. He flinched, the boy's hand shooting to his neck to cover the point where it felt like something stung him. His vision blurred, darkening on the edges until he crumpled, unconscious. "Oi, shrimp," a voice muttered, Koby's eyes flinting back and forth as the voice's owner shook him. "Wake up. We've got to deal with something." Koby groaned, his head pounding. He rolled onto his side, the rosette trying to not lose his dinner as a wave of nausea washed over him. "When?" "They hit you with a dart," Zoro answered, moving on to Jin. "I don't know what was in it, but it took you out in moments. That's what happens when you let your guard down. It's been 3 hours. 3. Koby shook himself awake as Jin came to, just as groggy. The room around them was empty of all the locals, only the straw hats inside. Luffy and Nami were huddled on the floor, the captain, having shrunk down to normal size, hugging the navigator from behind while she hugged her sack of prize money. Sanji was laid out on a couch, all the women absent. Usopp was slouched over a table, a small puddle of drool building on the floor below. "What now?" "I think I know who these guys work for," his teacher responded. "They're bounty hunters, and they probably want to claim our bounties, but we aren't going to let them. This will be a good test of where we all stand in relation to hordes of opponents. You two up for it?" "Yes, sensei," Koby muttered, not quite certain. "Yeah, sure," Jin blinked. "Good. Follow me." Zoro walked toward the back door without another word, the two fighters following him just as silently. Just outside was a ladder to the roof, one Zoro had already found, it seemed, since he climbed it without preamble. Once on the roof, the swordsman led them to the other side, a meeting in progress in the street below. In attendance were the Mr. Ninebear, Mayor Rygarapoi holding a saxophone, and the nun from the contest. The lattermost had shed her religious robes to show that she had pink hair and more muscle definition than Zoro. "I'm sorry to say that our mission was a failure," they heard Mr. Nine sigh. "It's not a problem," Nun Lady waved off in a rather deep voice for a woman. "It's not like anyone had high hopes on you actually getting the meat." "Hey!" Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday shouted in indignation. "Why don't you try to go kill the damn whale yourself? Keep it down, you two," Rygarapoi scolded. "We shouldn't. We shouldn't wake the pirates. I still don't understand why we wasted so much food for this one crew when we could have just ambushed them at the harbor," Nun Lady commented. The three eavesdroppers tensed. "It was an ambush. Look at this," Rygarapoi answered, offering copies of the wanted posters for Luffy, Zoro, and Jin, the prices on their heads clear as day. "What?" the other three shouted. "That moron's worth 30 million? Miss Wednesday questioned. "That other man was Pirate Hunter Zoro?" Mr. Nine added. "And Man Demon Jin of the East Blue." The faux nun muttered. "Don't be foolish," Rygarapoi chastised. "Appearances can can be deceiving." That goes for all of you. Sorry about that, Miss Wednesday apologized. It matters not. What matters is that our prey is trapped. For now, take everything of value from their ship. Hey! Zoro interrupted, standing. He pulled out Wado-Akamanji, causing the four on the ground to gasp. Sorry, but do you mind letting my friends sleep? Apparently, they've had a rough day. Mr. 8. Some no-name called from a doorway into the building. Miss Monday. Some of the pirates are gone. One of them is right there, Miss Wednesday sighed, rubbing her face. You wretch. I got a point, Mr. 8, growled as a crowd grew around him. Why are you not asleep like the others? A good swordsman never lets his guard down, Zoro smirked, Koby and Jin walking up to stand by his side. Plus, I took a nap earlier. Judging by the scowls and cheap disguises, I'm guessing you're all bounty hunters and that your specialty is robbing drunk pirates after they succumb to your hospitality. It's original, I'll give you that. Zoro-sensei. I count about 100, give or take, Koby offered. Good. We could use some exercise, don't you think, Brokeworks? How do you know that name? Mr. 8 demanded as panic bloomed around him. I got a letter a couple years ago when I was still a bounty hunter inviting me to join. Naturally, I declined. Do the same rules still apply? Cheesy code names and nobody knows anyone else's identity? If you know all our secrets, the Fomare began, then we'll just have to kill you. Of course, then we couldn't let the other two just go. Looks like we'll be adding 3 more gravestones to the cactus rocks tonight. Kill them. Shrimp. Jin. Take the grunts. I'll take Big Hair, Crown Boy, Muscles, and Wednesday. Yes, Zoro-sensei, Koby answered as Jin nodded. The boy hurried to the side of the building, hopping down onto some boxes and into a clear alleyway. His mind set on defending his crew, Koby readied himself to take on the foes that would come to him. Unlike Koby, this was not Jin's first curb stomp. The man demon hopping onto the building's ledge with his danfa stretched to either side and a crazed grin widening. His head tilted. Jin giggled, pupils dilating as he let go of his restraint. The voice whispered to him, dark justification solidifying in his mind. Year threatenin' Monokama. Ya wanna turn us over to the world government. That's bad, see? See, Don Luffy doesn't like killin', but Don Luffy ain't here. And what Don Luffy don't know, won't kill him. Spin in death. With his laughter echoing through the air, the man-demon jumped from his ledge, danfa swinging. He twisted, avoiding the shotgun spray a man fired at him by millimeters, simultaneously bringing the weighted ends of his weapons down on said man and a hook-nosed woman with a katana. An audible crack echoed, sizable dents in the agents' foreheads and streams of blood, coming from their facial orifices. The crowd backed away as Jin stood from the fresh corpses, his arms hanging limp and his grin seeming to reflect the moonlight as he looked over his shoulder. Yes, he said to himself, or to whatever the voice inside him was. It looks like you all will need more'n 3 tombstones if you'll wanna kill us. Man-demon Jin, one of the braver men, growled. He must have been well versed with the wanted posters. Wanted for 12 million birras, formerly a pirate under the command of Commodore Don Creek, arrested, and now serving under Straw Hat Luffy. You will die here and now. I don't think so, Jin smirked, ignoring the guns and swords pointed at him. You see, I just got to that grand line and I've no intention of stopping on only First Island. It's been so long since I could cut loose. Die for me, would ya? Jin rushed forward, his weapons nothing but a blur in the moonlight. He twisted to the right, his left danfa smashing into the ribs of a swordsman with a blade wider than his own form. It was far too heavy for the man to raise in time, so his ribs were smashed by the force of only one of Jin's danfa. Another man came, in swinging the same type of mace Alvida favored, much to Jin's delight. He sidestepped the blunt weapon by only half an inch, spinning his body to bring both danfa down on the spiked club's handle. The metal cracked and fractured under the stress, its owner only having time to whisper a prayer wanting his mother before his nose was crushed? There was a reason Jin had been given the moniker of Man-Demon, as the agents were now learning the hard way. A maniacal laugh tore from Jin's throat as he crushed a man's head between his tonfa, leaving the corpse to fall to the ground. The horde around him lost their forward momentum, horrified by the display. K-hit? Ahaha. You've threatened Monokama, Jin chuckled into the silence. Ya wanna kill us or hand us over to public execution? Ah, can't allow that. We've got dreams to fulfill, you know. He lunged forward, tearing through his enemies. Another insane laugh tore from his throat, matched by a laugh only Jin himself could hear. All right, Koby, you've got this, the Rosette whispered to himself, lightly bouncing his sword in his grip as he searched for smaller groups of foes to fight. It sounded like Jin was having fun with the main crowd, but that was not something Koby wanted to touch with a 29.5-foot pole. Trying to ignore the screams, Koby eyed the shadows around him, squeezing the alabasian leather of his sword's handles. The dark ahead shifted, giving Koby only a moment of warning before three grunts rushed him with swords. The teen settled into a low stance as they approached, his swords held parallel to the ground in front of him, one at chest height and the other at eye level. Two-sword style, he muttered, suppressing his fear. Streaming wolf swords. He leaned out of the way as the first sword cut through the air where his face had been a second before. This was nothing new. Zoro had started using his real swords in training to help Koby adjust to his weapon's new weight, so he'd had several close calls and was no longer phased into stillness. The next slash was aimed for his left arm, but the boy swept his appendage inward and twisted to stab that attacker in the arm. Koby gave no heed to the grunt's cry of pain as he avoided the third man's thrust by shifting his body. He twisted around, slamming the bottom of his right blade into the base of the man's neck. He went down, unconscious, but there was no time to celebrate. The first attacker came back, aiming to cut the boy to ribbons with a yell. Using his shorter height, Koby ducked under his horizontal slash and swept the man's legs out from under him with a basic move Sanji had taught him. Wanting to incapacitate him for as long as possible, Koby kicked the grunt between the legs, causing the only other conscious opponent to whine in pity and cover his own family jewels. Leaving that agent to squirm in agony, the pink-haired boy faced down his last foe of this match, said foe growling as a red stain grew around his shirt sleeve where Koby had stabbed him. The man charged with an overhead slash, but Koby was ready, catching the sword with a cross block and shocking the agent with his strength. You guys are nothing compared to Zoro-sensei, Koby smirked, pulling his blades apart and forcing the man's sword up and over his head. With speed developed through hours of training, the boy twisted his swords into a reverse grip and brought them up by his head. Bull needles. He lunged forward while the grunt was off balance, the ends of the blades plunging into the shoulders of the Baroquerque's agent, severing the tendons and rendering his arms useless until given time to heal. To finish, Koby pulled his swords out of the man's joints and kicked him in the gut, causing the man to hit a wall behind him. The man slid to the ground, out cold and bleeding, but alive. Now where is Zoro-sensei? Koby asked himself over the sounds of battle echoing through the streets. Unfamiliar with the terrain of the town, the boy decided to follow them. He ran through the streets, glancing through each side road to keep an eye out for any more enemies. As luck would have it, some enemies found him. Oi! A voice yelled from behind, Koby spinning around to face its origin. We've got the kid. He's in this alley. Koby bolted toward the other end, but it was already blocked off by two more thugs. The Rosette planted his feet as they seemed to materialize out of the buildings on either side. Nowhere to run now, punk, the man blocking his entrance grinned, someone behind him. Those are some pretty nice looking blades. Got a name for them? You know, something to remember you by when I use them myself. I'm Mr. Collector. The Sabaku no Kiba, Desert's Fangs, Koby answered, glancing back at the two other approaching agents. Oh, strong name, he grinned. What do you say you give me those swords and we'll let you go? Koby tightened his grip on his weapons. You want my swords? The pirate muttered as he fell into his ready stance. You can pry them from my cold, dead hands. Whatever works, the man shrugged. He lunged as the pounding of footsteps reached Koby's ears from behind. He ducked under the first sword swipe from the front and kicked backwards into the gut of the man behind. That man stumbled into his friend, the two tripping over each other. Koby jumped, instincts ingrained into him from Zoro's training screaming. They saved his life, a pair of overly sharp nails cutting through the air where his head had been. The person connected to the weaponized nails was a woman whose only defining feature in the darkness of the alley, other than her nails, were the red triangle-shaped tattoos on her cheeks. She sneered at the boy and swiped with open hand attacks, one of her attacks cutting 4 parallel lines into Koby's left forearm, her thumb just missing. Pain dulled through adrenaline reached his brain, but Koby had no time to pay it any mind. Zoro's apprentice spun around, trying to imitate his teacher's dragon twister. The same power wasn't there, but the spin did force his attackers away. The girl with the nails used them to slow her momentum, digging gouges into the walls on either side, but she seemed to underestimate how deep they would go. "Ha!" the woman yelled, wrenching her arm forward. Only her shoulder moved, all movement in the alleyway pausing, as they registered her predicament. "Missin' you," the sword collector blinked. "Do you? Go eat a dog treat, collector," the woman snapped. Koby ran forward, unconcerned with the agent's bickering, and kicked the woman in the stomach, using her as a springboard. In the air, he kicked off of a wall and landed on another man's face, knocking him unconscious with the force of his head hitting the ground. Koby ran off, leaving the disoriented, unconscious quartet behind. Zoro vanished from the roof after watching his companions hop to the ground, reappearing between his chosen opponents. The four jumped, each reaching for their own chosen weapons as Zoro grinned. "This'll be a good test for my new swords," the pirate mentioned, unsheathing a sword and pointing it at Igarappoi. "First up, Yubashiri. Bring it on." "Igarappoi!" Mr. 8 shouted, bringing his instrument up to his lips. A horrid noise, like cats in a blender, erupted from the mouth of the saxophone along with a hail of bullets. Zoro jumped out of the way, the projectiles moving on to pepper some agents looking the other direction. The swordsman ran forward, his sights set on the dangerous instrument, but a flash of bright blue and brown forced him to break off his attack. Mr. 9 was armed with a pair of metal baseball bats while Miss Wednesday had several crystals on strings, each sharp enough to cut through to bone. "Do you really think you can take on 4 number agents on your own?" Mr. 9 taunted. "Though we are not officer agents, we are still the best of millions. We are the frontier agents." Miss Monday did not care for such trivialities, punching the ground. The land below her shattered under the force, cracks widening and spitting up chunks of earth. Zoro growled, hopping away from the attack, inadvertently giving an opening to lesser mooks who held the hope of moving up through the ranks by killing the pirate hunter. Zoro, deciding they would only be a nuisance until he got rid of them, raised his new sword. He spun, Yubashiri cutting through air and flesh as easily as paper. "Light and well balanced," Zoro commented, flicking blood off the blade. "I like it." Yubashiri seemed to sing as he fought, cutting down several more adversaries and dodging the endless agents' attacks. The blade forced Miss Monday to keep her distance while Mr. 9 and Miss Wednesday went on a closer offensive, Mr. 8 providing long-range support. Miss Monday chose to guard her partner, much to Zoro's chagrin considering she had the skill to catch his blades on her steel knuckles. Having enough of that, he pulled Kaitetsu 3 from its sheath. "Let's see what you can do." "Igarappoi!" Mr. 8 yelled, another dissonant chord firing a hail of bullets toward the pirate. The spray chased him up a ladder and onto the room of one of the town's many clay buildings. Waiting on the roof were several agents, each with a gleam in their eyes. The first, a man with a cannon on his shoulder, fired a cannonball. Zoro's eyes widened, Kaitetsu 3 seeming to rise of its own volition to cut the projectile in two. The pirate slashed the agent across the chest with Yubashiri, cutting up the others with barely a thought. They'd live, probably. Swords should only cut when their masters tell them to, Zoro scolded his weapon, not fazed in the slightest that it had moved independently. You may be sharp, but you'll listen to me now. Light danced off the unmoving blade. Whether an agreement or argument was anyone's guess. Zoro nodded, the issue apparently settled, only for a shadow that wasn't his own to catch Zoro's eye, causing him to duck. Miss Monday swung a ladder, the improvised weapon going over the pirate's crouched form. The ladder shattered on impact, shards and chunks raining down on the unconscious agents. Zoro turned to confront her, only for the woman to grab him by the neck. Steel glinted in the moonlight as the agent raised her fist, bringing it down on Zoro's face. She moved with the force, slamming her foe into the rooftop. The combined force of Zoro's body and the punch cracked the structure, testing the limits of its integrity. She stood, Zoro left in the dent. Huh, she grunted. I thought he was some important guy. I guess he was overhipped pirate trash. Miss Monday turned, a smirk on her lips, only to freeze as a hand grabbed her by the scalp. She screamed, scrambling to grab the wrist of the man who had turned the tables in her moment of overconfidence. You hit pretty hard, Zoro told her, his grip unrelenting no matter how much she struggled. He started squeezing. That knocked me out for a moment there. Too bad, if it's a contest of strength, you lose. He waited until the woman went limp in his grip before tossing her form aside, turning to the other frontier agents below. Blood trickled down his face from where Miss Monday had punched him, the life-giving liquid only causing him to seem even more intimidating. This that the best you have to offer, Baroque works? Zoro asked. Well, I shouldn't be surprised. That Mr. 7 I killed years ago was just as much a pushover as any of you. But one of the women gasped. Miss Monday. This is. No way. This guy must be the real captain. Igarapa. Mr. H shouted, his sax making that god-awful noise again, forcing Zoro to duck behind the building's railing. Get away from him. Jin snarled, his bloody tonfa on a collision course with the deadly sax. Hearing his yell, Mr. 8 cut his attack short and backpedaled, trying to stay out of the man-demon's range. Zoro smirked as Jin chased Mr. 8 into the distance. Come, here, Karyu. Miss Wednesday called with a whistle, giving away her position behind Zoro on the rooftop. The pirate spun as a large, yellow duck landed beside the agent. The fowl had an aviator helmet, a water bottle around its neck, and a saddle on its back. It lowered, wings spread threateningly. Wha? Really? Zoro questioned. A duck. You get distracted too easily. Mr. 9 yelled, charging him from the side. How will you defend against my bloody bats? The swordsman smirked, Yubashiri rising to catch both bats without strain. He locked eyes with Mr. 9 as the man pushed against the blade fruitlessly. The verdict sheathed Kaitetsu 3, taunting the agent. With a roar of rage, Mr. 9 pulled back and charged again, only for Zoro to step out of the way. The frontier agent only had time for his eyes to widen before his momentum carried him into and over the building's railing, screaming. And that's another one down. Zoro grinned as a crash echoed from below. We're not done yet, Mr. Bushido. Miss Wednesday called from where she stood on her duck. She began swaying her body to and fro, the air becoming hazy with the stench of perfume as her zigzag-patterned blue shirt turned, almost hypnotic. Zoro covered his mouth and nose in an attempt to hold off the paralytic, but there was so much of it. The swordsman coughed, falling to one knee as his vision began to darken. This is the end, Mr. Bushido, Miss Wednesday taunted, her duck approaching the incapacitated swordsman step by step. Dragon Twister. A squeaky voice yelled, a small ripple of air pressure catching the agent and her mount by surprise. The air pressure wasn't nearly as much as Zoro could have produced, but the training Koby had received was more than enough to push both the agent and duck over the side of the building. Mr. 8, ragged but breathing and with one gun poking out from each curl, soon followed her down as Jin threw him from the second story above them. Finally, Zoro muttered, sheathing his blades and shaking off the weird perfume. "That was a good one, Shrimp. You're getting close to making a full twister. That's not a surprise since I'm the one teaching you." "Thanks, Zoro-sensei," Koby panted. Jin, dropping next to them, stepped over Miss Monday's unconscious form. "Now we can get some peace and quiet," Zoro yawned, sitting on the edge of the building. Mr. 8 and Miss Wednesday were moaning and groaning below, Mr. 9 silent beside them. "I thought that 9 guy would have come back, though. I caught him by surprise," Koby offered, taking a seat beside his teacher. "He wasn't too hard to beat by taking him from behind. Almost landed on me, though." "That was a good workout," Jin commented, flicking the blood off of his danfa and sitting on Zoro's other side. "Kai ha ha ha." They heard a woman laugh. The trio glanced down to see that the 3 agents they just defeated were being confronted by 2 more. "Mr. 5, Mr. 9 wheezed, holding his head. "Miss Valentine. Wonderful. With you here, Kai ha ha ha," the woman cut him off. She was on the shorter side of 5 feet and had straight blonde hair cut short covered in a yellow hat with an orange rim. She had a slim waist with assets accentuated by her lemon-themed dress, the outfit showing off her long legs. Pale skin flowed down her legs and arms, her hands covered in white gloves. Pale blue eyes shined with sadistic mirth as she twiddled with a yellow umbrella the same color as her lemon earrings. "What happened to you all?" she mock-pouted. "2 pirates and a brat? Did you come here to laugh at us?" Mr. 8 growled. "Nope," the man, Mr. 5, grunted in a smooth voice. The agent had wild black hair and a short sort of afro and a closed, brick-red overcoat that went well with his darkly tanned skin. A box 5 sat on the left breast of his overcoat and a pair of sunglasses rested on his nose, hiding his eyes. "We're not here to help you at all. Laughing's just a bonus. Did you really think we'd come all the way to the beginning of the Grand Line just to help you clowns?" Miss Valentine added. Then why are you here?" Miss Wednesday asked, a waver in her tone. "The boss sent us," Mr. 5 answered, a finger idly trailing into his nose. "Said someone had learned his secrets." "Don't know what secrets." "Don't want to know." "Obviously, someone else did. We've come to tie up all the loose ends, and eliminate all of the intruders from that kingdom." "Now wait a second." Mr. 9 jumped. "I'm not a king or anything. I just wear a crown because it's a hobby." "Not you, you moron," Mr. 5 growled as his partner laughed. "We're here for the Princess of Alabasta, Vivi Nefertari." "She's here," Mr. 9 yelled. Mr. 5 pointed, the crown-wearing agent's gaze following his finger until it landed on the bleenette. Kuryu the duck made as close to a growling sound as ducks could, jumping in front of the apparent princess protectively. "Miss Wednesday? No, that's..." she tried to deny. "You will not harm the princess," Mr. 8 shouted as he shot to his feet, his thumbs laced through the bow around his neck. "Not as long as I, Garam, the head of castle security, am still breathing. I gotta papa." He pulled the knot, firing the gun still poking out of his hair. Only Miss Valentine moved to dodge, jumping impossibly high and opening her umbrella. Her spot empty, the bullets raced for Mr. 5. When the projectiles connected with the male agent, however, he literally blew up. The explosive force was caught by his partner's umbrella, carrying her higher into the air. She deftly maneuvered herself, floating as if weightless until she was over Miss Wednesday. She closed her parasol. 10,000 kilogram press. She dropped like a stone, Kuryu and the princess fleeing. Even so, they were still knocked over by the shockwave Miss Valentine caused when she landed, a crater forming with her at the center. The princess pulled out her weapon, the weird pinky rings she called her peacock slashers, and tried to retaliate. "What's going on out here?" a voice yawned, Luffy wandering out of a building while rubbing sleep out of his eyes. "Whoa. Where'd that crater come from?" Kai-ha-ha. Miss Valentine laughed, hopping out of the indent and floating 10 feet into the air. You're pretty quick, Princess Vivi, but our orders are to eliminate you. Nothing personal. While the princess did her best to avoid the weightless woman and Mr. 8 fought Mr. 5, who had not died from exploding like most would have, Zoro leaned over to Koby. Shrimp. Get down there and tell Luffy what we heard. I don't want him doing something stupid like thinking we attacked the townspeople for no reason. We'll let the captain decide what to do next. Yes, Zoro-sensei, the Rosette answered before hopping down. Zoro glanced at Jin, the man-demon staring at the blonde with the parasol. What's up, Jin? Zoro smirked. Window shopping? No, he muttered, refusing to look at the swordsman. Zoro's face didn't change, keeping its skepticism open. I just have a thing for sadistic chicks, okay? Jin relented. I'm not judging, Zoro shrugged. I'm not quite sure what's going on, Mr. 9 commented, jumping away from a crumbling wall that had been the latest victim of Mr. 5. But we've been fighting together for a long time, Miss Wednesday. I'm on your side. Bloody bats. The agent backhand sprinted toward the explosion man. Mr. 5 responded by digging in his nose and pulling out 2 boogers, flicking both at his foes. One hit Igaram, the captain of Alabasta Castle Security, and the other hit the acrobatic batter. Smoke engulfed both as the boogers exploded with the force of 2 sticks of dynamite. Mr. 9 rocketed out of the smoke a scant second later, covered in soot and limp as a ragdoll. Terrified, the princess hopped on her duck and took off. Mr. 8 swayed as the smoke cleared, falling in his back hard. He opened his eyes with a wince, looking up at Jin and Zoro on the edge of the roof. Apparently, he was made of sterner stuff than the younger agent had been. Please, he rasped. Save the princess. Please. There could be a reward in it for you. We'll do it. Nami shouted, running out of another building, the word reward drawing her out of her looting like a moth to a flame. Nami wants it, Luffy declared, barely understanding Koby's well-worded explanation. She's coming with us. Koby, get the others and take her to the ship. Zoro, Jin, and I will meet you there. We're leaving as soon as we kick these guys' asses. Aye, Captain Luffy, Koby saluted, rushing into the building where the party had happened. Outside, he vaguely heard Luffy yell, Zoro, Jin, take Afro Guy. Nami, go help get the ship ready to sail. I'll go after the girl and the other girl. Following his orders, Koby walked in to see that Sanji had squirmed off the couch and was holding Usopp's hand, still muttering about beautiful women. The boy dashed over, grabbing their shoulders and shaking them none too gently. Time to go, he told them. Short version, town of bounty hunters, a hiding princess, we're taking her home and risking our necks. Get up. Sanji woke and Noodle danced at hiding princess. Usopp woke and panicked at risking our necks. All in all, not abnormal, though they were forced to flee out the back door as the front of the building exploded. Go ready the marry. Koby told them. I'll go get the princess. But Sanji began. She's fighting a woman, Koby cut him off, taking the wind from his sails. Seeing the two on their way, the Rosette followed the sound of terrified quacking. He found Karyu running away from Luffy and Miss Valentine's fight, the agent trying to fall on the captain only for his rubber body to prevent her attacks from doing any damage. Get back here. The smooth voice of Mr. 5 demanded. You won't touch her. Miss Monday cut in, her feet cracking the road as she landed between 5 and the princess. Get out of here, Wednesday. This way. Koby called out to the balloonette and duck. Vivi urged her, mount on, running past the boy who managed to grab a hold of the saddle as she went by. Explosions continued in the distance, nearly covering the boy's voice. Take a left up here. The going